right, folks. I'll ask you to find your seats, get situated, and welcome back for the closing conversation today. Uh, how were your sessions? Hey, all right. Good to hear. And the folks who put on those sessions would love to get your feedback. So if you didn't share those things already, feel free to let us know by completing the surveys if you haven't done that, so we can relay that information to the presenters. They'd love to know how they can improve their presentations for the future, continue to deliver content and community building opportunities to you all in the future. And what you say to them and what you say to us really matters for how we plan future summits. So really appreciate that. So one thing before we start with the closing conversations is that we have been working our hardest to revive the Johnny Gamage Scholarship Award. And what this is, yeah, there you go. Yeah, clap, it's money. So in these efforts to work on how we can promote racial justice through laws and policies, where we can make the impact of our work really stick and last for years to come, we want to support a local law student in their law school endeavors by providing them with a gift of unrestricted cash that they can use to support whatever they have to do to get through law school, to find a house over the summer, to be able to take on an unpaid job elsewhere that will support them in whatever those efforts are. And so we ask these students to submit an essay where they discuss a legal issue and use legal scholarship work to address a specific social justice problem that is timely. And we wanted to make sure that this essay was about how can we create laws and policies that promote community engagement in terms of bringing about racial justice. They also have to submit a value statement where they explain the different ways that their work and their life has been dedicated to racial justice in the ways that we live out those values here at the Racial Justice Summit. Aside from that, of course, they got to submit a resume like any other group of people would have to do, and they have to demonstrate a track record of that level of commitment. And we asked for students from the University of Pittsburgh Law School as well as the law school at Duquesne to submit applications, and we were able to award them a $5,000 scholarship to two awardees across all of the applicants. And this year we were able to identify one awardee that will help us kick off the scholarship sort of train again. And I would like for you all to please give a round of applause to this year's winner, Shi Tai Wang. Please stand. All right, thanks very much, Shi Tai. Spend that money wisely. So at this point, I'd like to invite our conversationalists to come to the stage. So Emma, Jade, Tim, Jackie, come on up here. So we don't want this to be like a typical panel conversation where some question gets answered and everybody just, a question gets asked and then each person just answers like one after the other. We want folks to actually be in conversation with one another. And a part of our theme here today, obviously, in terms of building community, sitting down and actually talking with other people, listening to other people is something that is very integral to building this sense of community that we want to foster. In this particular conversation, like many of the sessions that we had today, we got to hear youth voices. You got to hear voices of elder folk who have been dedicated to racial justice for many, many years. And today I wanted to have a conversation that put them both in the same space together to reflect on the day, but for them to come to a shared vision, one where the elders can look to the past and say, look at how far we've come. And the youth can help say, hey, even though we've come a long way, this is where we want to go. And how do we figure that out together, right? And so I will let the panelists introduce themselves in terms of names, where you're from, and then just tell everybody, like, why are you here? What brings you to the summit?
Hello.
Yep.
My name is Jade Heflin. I currently go to City High. That's what I supposed to say.
Yeah. Why are you here at the summit?
I chose to be here because I take a lot of pride in the color of my skin, and I want to take the opportunity to educate a lot of people on the issues that people of color face, and just have a conversation with people and figure out how to not to perpetuate racism, and how to stop a lot of things that go on in our communities and recognize things that aren't right. So to point it out and say, hey, like, that's actually racist. Like, let's not keep starting that and take pride in the color of our skin. Oh, and I'm representing Yes Teen Council here in Pittsburgh. Yes Teen Council.
Yeah.
Yes, teen.
Oh, okay.
Hello, my name is Emma Ibarra Romano. I'm here with Casa San Jose. And I've been a part of Casa San Jose since I was 6 years old. And coming from a Latino family with a American as a parent as well was hard for me because I've struggled with a lot of racism in my life and a feeling of uncomfortable and not understanding exactly where my place stands here in Pittsburgh. I wanted to say thank you to Casa for helping me throughout everything that I've been through and helping my family. And I think that's about it.
Thank you.
Hi, folks, and thanks for being here today. It's a long day, so glad you're all still here. My name's Jackie Smith, and I work with the Human Rights City Alliance and live on the East End. But I'm here because, and since we're on an intergenerational panel, I'll give a little reflection on the big picture of why I'm here. I'm here because over the course of my life, I've met many elders who've given me inspiration and guidance to live a lifestyle that's about changing the world that I'm in and making it more just. And that has helped given me the tools and the perseverance that it takes, because it's not easy work and it's not gonna happen in a semester of school. It's not gonna happen in a year or 5 years. It really is about making a commitment with our lives to spend the time that we need to work together with other people, face to face, to really figure out how do we get the world we need. Because none of us knows how we do that, but if we look around, there's folks that have been walking the walk for a while, and we can always learn something from them. And so I'm very grateful for those elders who've taught me. And I will pass it on to one of our elders that we're very fortunate who's created this space, which was so valuable when I first moved to Pittsburgh to learn about what's going on in this community, because I was new and moving here from another activist community, and I needed a new one to work in. And I met so many of the folks that kept me going and plugged me into the right places here. So I think a key lesson that I hope younger folks learn is always work on those relationships, always try to be open to the learning across generations, especially from people who were around before the current number 47 president, because you need some inspiration from us.
Yeah, what are you doing? Okay.
I'm here because they told me to be here. Somebody said I might get an award, so I said I should be here. My name's Tim Stevens, and they call me the founder. Usually if you're the founder, you're old. And I am, but I try to be young. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for hanging this late, too. I just wrote something down. If you looked at this, you will understand why when I go to a store, sometimes I ask someone, what does that say? My vice chair of the Black Political Empowerment Project, which I'm CEO and founder, is 31 years old. As of May 4th of this past year, I hit a particularly important year, and when this ends, I have to go to a party for an 80-year-old who's part of my corporate equity and inclusion roundtable group that deals with black employment and black entrepreneurship. But last May 4th, I hit that same number. So my vice chair is 31, Dalen A. Davis. I hit 80, so that means we're 49 years difference. And when I joked with him about that, I said, 49 years from now, Dalen, will you still be doing this stuff? So, I mean, it's a crazy thought, isn't it? So one of the things that we hope that you guys as very young folks, now you may not be doing all this stuff at 80 or 75 or whatever, but if you're going to get work done, you have to kind of stay the course. Does that make sense for a while? If you're going to change the world, you have to be in it and kind of stick with whatever it is you're trying to do. So that's just a thought. But let me say this. I don't know how long you're going to be active, but there are young people who are not active at all. So hopefully you will stay the course for a good while. But let's give them a hand for being active right now. And hopefully you have a commitment to keep moving.
There's lots of old people that aren't active at all, too, and so we still have some work, Tim.
So I'm curious from the younger folks, when you think about staying committed to racial justice for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, like what does that mean to you? Like what do you even think about that in the long run? A lifelong commitment to something, what does that mean to you at this time in your life?
I would definitely say that right now, I should stick with yes, because they support me and they're giving me the opportunities I need to be here right now. So I definitely want to shout out them. And I also think that in the future, if this is going to be a lifelong commitment, that I need to reach more people. I think that my voice needs to be heard by as many people as possible, which means that I think I also need to be in a position of power.
Black woman in position of power.
As a kid, when people asked me my career and everything, I said that I want to be the first female black president of the United States. And I would say it's still a possibility, so that if I want to keep this course, that position of power would be the highest one that I would want to take. But right now, I'm gonna think a little smaller, a little more local. I definitely want to be a part of more community spaces, not just Yes Teen Council, but anywhere in Pittsburgh. And I want to talk to people of power, definitely speaking to our mayor, in getting to the people who run things to talk to them about what they're doing right, not just only what they're doing wrong and what they need to keep doing. And I think that it's also important to talk to people in my generation, the community that I'm in, or people that go to my school, because we're the generation who's going to be living in this world that we're making. So I think that's also important to talk about people my age.
So I definitely agree with what Jade said. Voice matters, expressing yourself matters, and having people hear your opinions and your thoughts and sharing what you truly feel, I feel like that matters the most. But I feel like that doesn't only matter for adults and kids my age, but kids younger, for them to understand where they belong and the roots that they came from. And working with CASA and being able to experience multiple different organizations, not only just CASA, but having them help out and show other organizations that help with so much more, just like college and everything else that a young teen like me needs for my life in the future. I feel like that matters for people to express themselves more and know that they have a purpose in life. And it's something that, they have power and a better understanding for.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, it's your conversation.
This is, I'm going back to something you said earlier. You weren't here this morning, right? You been all day? Oh. So you heard my speech. I didn't, well, great. We're at such a difficult time, and as I said this morning, this is not the country that I thought I was told we were going to be when I grew up in the Hill District. And you are sharing some of the pain that is going on in this country, but you are experiencing it yourself. How old are you? May I ask your age?
I'm 17. I turn 18 this October.
18?
This October.
Okay, so you'll be voting in the November 3rd election, right? Because we vote in each and every election. But you expressed some honest feeling about what you've experienced as a 17-year-old going on 18. Have you felt that pain basically your whole life, or just in recent years as you maybe became more conscious of being, let's say, an older teen?
I can say that I've basically experienced this my whole life because the schools that I've been to have been all white schools, and there was never really diversity in my schools. And ever since I was little in elementary, I've experienced racism with teachers and students my age.
Racism with students and teachers. And you're still smiling. So you have some young folks down here supporting you, and you have adults in the room supporting you. What can you teach us of how you've survived at this point to feel the comfort to sit on this stage with these people who you don't know, including a bunch of adults, and share that intimate story? Because what you're talking about has a lot of depth of what the Racial Justice Summit is about. You know, building bridges. We have Yvette, where'd she go? Oh, she. When we started the Black-White Reunion, our theme was building bridges. And we've broken some bridges in this country, haven't we? Particularly this past year or so. How can we build those bridges with folks that are experiencing what you're experiencing. Literally, this isn't something in a storybook for you or on the news, it's in your life. Can you share with us? And the sensitivities that we need to have when we run into people who are different, because that's part of what the Black and White Reunion Racial Justice Summer is about, is respecting each other, right? Of whatever. Black folks have had to do that. I'm in a fraternity. I'm kind of trifling right now, but Alpha Phi fraternity. Years ago, not when I was active, but you had to look pretty much like me. I mean by the light-skinned Negro. If you were dark-skinned at a time with Alpha Phi fraternity, you couldn't join. So we divide ourselves often. I mean, that has been fixed. My dean was was dark-skinned. My best friend who became an Alpha was dark-skinned, as my father was. But we're still dealing with that. But the whole country is dealing with stuff. But I don't want you as a 17-year-old to have to deal with what you're dealing with. How have you sustained your strength? And what can you tell us?
What's kept me going so far has probably just been the words of my dad and the words of my family. That other people's opinion doesn't matter, whether if they're talking about your color or the way that you express yourself. What matters is how you feel, and just to tone out the bad negativity around you, because at the end of the day, it's your life, and you get to express your own feelings in the way that you think and the way that you talk to others. That it's possible for you to connect with people around you, but not everybody's your friend at the end of the day. Only you are able to decide who you can trust and know the right people who are going to be there for you no matter what and support you throughout whatever decision that you want.
Thanks for sharing that.
I mean, if you have something to add or build on, go for it.
I want to know a little bit about the Yes Teen Council. And it sounds like you're trying to create a creative structure to bring youth voices into power. If I'm understanding right from some of your story and your ambition. So maybe if I can hear a little more about that, because I think what I've learned over many years of doing this work is that the system that's in place is set up to keep things the same and to keep the power structures that be in place. And so if we want a different system, we have to create new structures and ways to remedy some of the exclusions that we see in the existing political system, economic system, in the media, even in our activism. So maybe hear a little bit more about what you all do, and let's maybe think about what would the kind of system that we need to address systemic racism and inequality and create a more just and equal, sustainable world, what would that look like? And is Yes Teen Council maybe a structure that can help us get there and bring you to the White House one day?
This year, when I joined Yes a good couple months ago, I ran for president, and I became junior president with my senior president being Manny in the audience. I'm very grateful that my peers entrusted me to help lead them to the position of success that I want us to all be in. At Yes, it's all youth. We do have adults who support us and try to get us connected, but I think that it's a very educational space where we're bringing people, and we'll learn what we are capable of doing in the world and where we stand. we were learning about what rights we have and like what we can say yes and no to. I remember one of the most impactful sessions for me was when someone came in and we were talking about our rights just as American citizens, and like when like you're being detained or arrested and what's like legal and not legal, because I know that especially young people nowadays, we don't get to like talk about that a lot. Like when there's a lot of injustice when being like pulled over like by a cop, and like what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't do, and how some police don't have the right to do some things that you do. And we learned about that. We can learn to say no to some things, and stuff like that, like the right to record, like for our safety. And we just learned about how to successfully like proceed, and we're able to get connected with people in power also. Recently, we were connected with some police deputies to try to make some relations with them, to try not to have so many negative connotations with police, especially as young Black people of color. We usually have negative stereotypes against them, you know, like we're afraid or we don't like them. But we want to try to build bridges, like you said, and we want to try to get in connection with people so that they hear us. And they did hear us. They were there to hear like what they can do to be more helpful, to be friendly, and everything like that. And they were trying to connect with us and have more like community events where they're just like, where they're people, where they're not like in their uniforms and everything like that, and where they're listened to kids like us about like our opinions and what we actually want to see from them. Not just all the negative things, but to build some positive memories with people in the community. So like we'll keep doing that at Yes, and getting with people to know that we can trust these people, that they're listening to us and that they hear us and they value their opinions. So I want to stay at Yes to get in more contact with people so that our voices can be heard and that we can be represented as teens, because often we're not, people will say that they're listening, but they're not listening. They're not really hearing what we're saying, or they're not interpreting it correctly. And there are people out there who are really trying to work with us to make sure that they understand us and to interpret our ideas and our opinions correctly. So at Yes, we try to do that, and we try to promote voices and a lot of education, just like in the world, and like things that we should know that we're not getting taught in schools and everything.
Did you say you were the president of your group?
Yes, junior president.
I could see why. Can you see why?
Yeah.
Come on. That's great. I'd like to ask the two of you a question. One of the things we've done with BPEP in recent years, the Black Political Empowerment Project, we've been dealing with intergenerational leadership. Like that's the example, that was the clearest example of my vice chair of BPEP is, what did I say, 49 years younger than I am. And we have folks in their 30s and early 50s and all that kind of thing. But what do you think, either one of you can answer, that adults don't understand about young people today? That we should know, to think about at least, that would help intergenerational relations, and particularly with adults and teenagers. You have any thoughts about that? Like stuff that you would like to tell adults if you were in a room by yourself. Nobody's here. It's just the four of us. But seriously, that you would want adults to know that maybe they never thought about, that would improve the relationship between adults and teenagers and young adults. If you have thoughts, you may not have any.
I feel like understanding, like an adult understanding their kid is like the most important part, because bullying is like a big thing, and I know with like younger people today, and I feel like a lot of parents, they'll like come home from work and the student will come home from school and a parent will ask their child, well, how was your day at school? And a lot of kids are scared to like tell their parents or tell like adults around them that what they're dealing with. So
They don't want to say
yeah, they don't want to say.
how their day was.
They'll say like, oh yeah, my day was fine, it was normal, it's cool, it's whatever. But they're just scared to like talk to somebody about what they're dealing with. And it may not be online, but it could also be social as well, because I know I've had like experiences with it, but I've grown to have a stronger connection and stronger bond with my father, enough that I can trust him to tell him that, hey, these things are going on at school and I'm not too sure what to do about it. Or sometimes I'll even go to the school counselor and I'll be like, hey, so usually I'm not comfortable with talking to people or older adults because I haven't been due to like, personal experiences. But I've learned that over time that not all adults are bad, and there are a lot of adults.
Write that down. Not all adults are bad.
That there's a lot of adults in younger people's lives that are there to support them and care about them no matter what they're going through.
I definitely agree. I think that a lot of adults, like career-based, like teachers, they need to see like students not as students, but also young adults growing into adults. Like you're not just there to do your job, but like you should do more, like kind of thing. Like I know some parents are there to like provide food, shelter, water, all the basic necessities, but also like they're teaching you how to walk in life. Teachers, I don't think should just be there to teach you the curriculum, but also to inspire you to seek out more knowledge. I, for one, I love learning. I think that knowledge really is power, and I want to learn a lot. And I think that one reason why kids aren't engaged in school is because they're like, I'm never going to use this information. I think that kids will be more willing to learn when they care about what they're learning about. And I think that's a problem on both ends. One, some kids or some young adults don't care about what's not affecting them, which can be very harmful because I think that everything affects everyone. Like I think it's a privilege to just like have to not care, so it's on the students to care. But I think it's also on the teachers or adults to start giving us information that we can use, knowledge that is useful to us that we're going to use in the future to make us successful, not to just like pass the test, but to stuff that we can actually take into life and like care about, the stuff that we'll be telling our kids about, and like this is advice that someone gave me that I use for the rest of my life. And I think that we should get that more often, because when I'm talking to older people, like my grandma or like my mom, they'll tell me something and it will really stick with me or resonate with me. And they said, someone told me this when I was young and I wanted to tell it to you. But it's very rare when they do that. And I think that if more knowledge was given to me, I could give it to others as well.
Give it away.
I would give it away. I don't think that people should have to. Some spaces are like, I was gonna say that some spaces are harder to get into than others, like college. You need to pay for college. You need to pay for all the information that you get. And some of it should really come free. I think that I would give away the knowledge that I have so other people can also succeed with that useful information, not just all the stuff that they teach us to pass our test.
I'm going to swing this over to Jackie.
I got a question for you all, too, based on what Jade and Emma had shared. What I'm hearing from them is that a kind of culture of care coming from adults in their lives is something that's allowed them to thrive, to build trust, to build confidence in themselves. to get mentorship, advising. And I'm curious, Tim and Jackie, as probably having a lot of time talking with people younger than yourselves, to say, like, what have you told somebody or done to communicate to a younger person that you do care about them in a way that stuck and resonated in the ways that they're kind of asking?
I was thinking of another response to.
But yeah, but
some of
do
what they
both,
said.
yeah.
I mean, I think caring, expressing caring is listening and taking time to ask questions of, hey, what are you doing? What are you interested in? And inviting. I'm a teacher in college, and so I try to invite my students to do things outside of our regular classroom, because the classroom is structured in many ways that don't really let us do some of the things that really we would like in terms of inspiring really creativity and allowing students to explore things that they may be passionate about. There's institutional arrangements that we've got to conform to. So I think, one question that your answers to that last question inspired for me is, the problems that you speak of really go beyond individual level of, individuals need to be nicer, or take more time, or, at the dinner table, really try to figure out how to get young people to talk about their experiences. I mean, there's big changes in our society that are making bullying more common, that are making parents come home more tired and or really exhausted and rushed. And people don't have a lot of time. Their students get really scheduled, right? You come home from school, you got to eat, you got to go to practice or do your homework. So there's lots of constraints that make it hard to do some of the things that humans have always done. I mean, our world is getting faster and faster, and the technology that we're surrounded with, I think, is the biggest driver of that. And we're often just kind of caught up in a tide that we just go along with the new technologies and don't ask, how is that changing our relationships? How is it changing our communities? That we now spend most of our time on a screen and not seeing people face to face. And that is new. That is like the most recent generations of humans are different from every other generation of humans past. That you spend more time communicating on a screen than you do face to face. But for the entire human history, we've evolved as a species, and our culture has developed because of face-to-face communication. So I struggle with, how do we deal with this? Because every day we see different ways that this manifests. And in my classroom, just getting students to put their phones away so they can learn is impossible. And so, I don't know, I think I really worry about the future generations, about, when you're president, even getting to be president, how can this happen if we're constantly, if we've got these gigantic problems, bigger than any previous generation has had to confront, and yet we have more difficulty talking to one another, trusting one another. We don't see one another, so we don't, we don't have that trust or that relationship that can allow us to work together. And so I think that's it's not a challenge just for younger generations, but you got to live with it longer. I mean, we grew up and people knew how to work together. They knew how to organize together, and I think those skills, we've lost them in the course of recent decades. So I worry about, where we're leaving you, but I think it's on all of us to figure out, how do we figure out what to do with this situation, and how do we manage technology in a way that doesn't undermine those human relationships that are really essential to doing what you all really need. Yeah, the building bridges.
Let me lighten it a little bit. No, I'd be sorry. That was good. That was good. Can everybody say air conditioning?
Air conditioning.
Everybody say air conditioning.
Air conditioning.
What the hell does that have to do with what you just said? I have this theory. I do, HP. When air conditioning came along, with more and more Americans having air conditioning, the relationship between neighbors began to drop. Think about it. Particularly in our black communities, which are generally poorer. When in the summertime, you were just out on the porch sweating, complaining about the heat and the sweat and the bugs, the flies, but you had conversations about it. Now, you go in the house, turn on the air conditioning, and keep moving. A lot of people who have garages, which I do not have, they just drive into the house. They don't even have to look at anybody or say anything. So we've kind of, as the technology increases, which in many ways are advantages to us, right? But there are disadvantages, such as human interaction. Does that think about it. Air conditioning. Something as simple as air conditioning I truly believe has cut down interaction between neighbors. The phone. How many of you have been in restaurants where you see 4 or 5 people, they're all on their phones?
And not just ordering.
And not just ordering. They already ordered their chicken and their whatever. And they're on the phone. And one day I watched a couple, and I thought it was humorous. They were so much on the phone. Like, do they know these people? So we have and as technology increases, as Jackie said, it's probably going to increase these kind of breakdowns in human relations. So you all have work to do. We all have work to do, right? About how we interact, how we build those bridges. And it's not an easy solution, because these advantages have brought us disadvantages as human beings, I think, in maybe too many cases. Let me ask you, Mr. President here. Do you think, or have you ever had young people as a group, maybe 10, 15, whatever, go to city council or county council on an issue, that they go to council and they actually say, this is what I believe, this is what I agree with, this is what I oppose. So those young people actually get the sense of power, because they're interacting with those in power and giving them their opinions. Not all council people will react positively, but some, I think, would be thrilled to see young people come down and give their opinions on whatever, particularly if it's opinions on things that affect them, such as police policies, housing policies, educational policies at the school board. What do you think about that?
In, I believe, May, I'm actually going to go do just that. Yes, I'm supposed to go, I think, into Harrisburg and go speak with the representative of our state to talk about some issues that I believe are important, especially among like our youth and everything like that.
I missed it. What subject?
Just like within our youth, or anything that I deem to be important. Anything that like affects me or my community, or that I see affecting the people around me. And hopefully I can see some changes that are being made after I bring up the concerns that I have.
I was in a session today where we asked the question with the Allegheny Vote Coalition. One of the questions that you could have gotten a prize for is, do you have to be 18 or above to register people to vote? Do you know the answer to that? Either one of you?
Don't
What's
you have
that?
to, don't you have to
Do
be
you
18
have to be 18 or above to register adults to vote?
to register an adult to vote?
Well,
Yes.
those are the only people that
Yes.
can vote, or 18 and above.
I believe so. Yes, I believe so.
Okay, it's kind of it's a tricky type question, and I think a lot of people would not answer that correctly. You could be 15 and register somebody to vote. You just can't vote, but you can register others and empower. Young adults can empower their own parents and grandparents and whatever. Know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's something to think about because you're more powerful than you may think. And some adults may be shamed into registering to vote because a 15-year-old, 17-year-old, 16-year-old comes up and say, Mr. Smith, are you registered to vote? And Mr. Smith says, I guess not. And you say, well, Mr. Smith, I'm 15 or I'm whatever, and I can't vote, but I want you to vote because I'm going to vote when I hit 18. Would you be a part of making their community stronger? And some people might be shamed into registering. I'm serious. Sometimes, does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
That's an exciting possibility. So we could have a whole train of young people coming up to adults. And if adults say, can you register me? And you say yes. Thank you very much. Here's the registration form. Welcome to empowerment.
And I'll add something that in addition to registering people to vote, I think what we all have to think about is how do we give people something to vote for?
Yeah.
Right? We don't want the same old platform. And what we talk about in the Human Rights City movement is we talk about having political and legal imagination. We're asked to vote for candidates, but we're not really given any new ideas and policies. And so the human rights approach says if we start with people and not with the idea that we have to appease businesses so that we bring money into the city or jobs so that we can do what we need to do, it says, hey, we as a city or as a country, community, we want to put people's needs first, and then we're going to figure out how we get there. And that might mean we have to raise taxes on certain groups of people that don't pay enough. That's what I mean by political and legal imagination. It's about stepping on toes, thinking outside the box of the usual solutions, and figuring out what are the real solutions. How are we going to, end student debt and stop putting young people in a position where they can't afford housing when they graduate because they've got too much debt from paying for their education, which should have been free. Education's a human right. Why do we put students into debt to go to college? But then how do we figure out a system or an approach or political strategy for changing that? That requires some creativity, and I think all of us really have to figure out how do we think about the solutions we need, and then figure out from there how do we get there. But often we stop and we think about how do we get somebody elected so we can do whatever's allowed within this narrow roadway that we're given. But maybe we need to take an entirely different path. So when Jade, when you run, how can you put forward a platform that's really about the kind of liberatory vision of a society that we want? And how do we all help envision that so Jade gets enough votes to overcome all the electoral hurdles and gerrymandering and all that's rigging the game? But we know we can do it because we've elected some good political leaders. Summerlee, we've got some good leaders that should inspire us. But it really does take, coloring outside the lines, figuring out what do we need, and then, how we get there starts there. We usually start with how do we elect the person that might be able to move us a little bit in that direction.
All right, so I want to have us wrap up conversation that time went a little faster than I thought, and the conversation went a lot like I thought it would between youth and elders in many ways. But I want to give the spotlight to our youth for just one more last comment to think of as you reflect on your experience of the day here at the summit and this conversation. Is there one thing that makes you think more clearly about the future of racial justice in your lives here in Pittsburgh and beyond? What's an important lesson you learned that's changed the way you viewed this, Emma and Jade? And this might be a big, tough question, but definitely want to hear. What do you think about the future?
The group of people I presented to were very open. They were much better than I ever expected because they cared. They were listening to understand, and they inquired about things that they didn't understand. And they really cared, and they showed us that they cared. And the thing that I want to take away from this is that the people who care will listen to you and want to make that change with you. You just have to find them because they are out there. And I'm so happy that I found the people here, the people who are actually willing to listen to me in my group and actually make a change. That it's very difficult to change people's minds, but oftentimes there are people who just a little quieter than others, and you have to actually talk with them to hear them and like understand their opinion and know that there are people supporting you in the background, that there are always going to be people out there who will shame the same opinions that you do. You just have to find them. So that's what I want to take away from today.
I have a, I want to ask you a question. This is kind of sensitive, but we're here to have breakthroughs. What would you like to say? Nobody's here but the four of us. To white people, to brown people, other black people who treat you as though you don't belong here. What would you really want to say to them? What would you want to tell them of how they're making you feel, and also the humanity that they are missing by saying the things they say? Nobody's here but the four of us.
I could say that color doesn't matter. Color doesn't matter. No. Whether you're white, brown, black, Asian, Middle Eastern, it doesn't matter. That at the end of the day, everybody is able to form into their own person. And I know, speaking from personal experiences, I've had a white girl at my school. I would tell everybody that I'm not from here. I wasn't born in the America. I would tell them that I was born in Mexico because I knew my school was severely racist, and that a lot of times people mattered about like where you come from. So I would sit there and tell them, oh yeah, I was born in Mexico, and they would call me an illegal alien and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I found out that from telling people that whether I'm here or not, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter, because there's always gonna be people who look down on you just for the color of your skin or the way that you act. And I feel like with what I said earlier, that like at the end of the day, only you know who are the right people that you can trust. I feel like that's like a big thing. So I would tell them that color doesn't matter, and that they should change their own personal opinion, or maybe go to an organization or just a group of colored people and get to know their cultural backgrounds and the roots that they came from, because you can't judge a book by its cover.
All right. So yeah, let's give a round of applause to all the panelists today. Kept you a little late. So, yeah, thank you all today for joining us at the Pittsburgh Racial Justice Summit for the sessions we've had, this conversation, the time and community, joy and music that we've got to share with each other, and some pretty good sandwiches too at lunch, I might say. So just a couple quick announcements and thank yous. So one, somebody left a phone earlier at the back of the auditorium that's up at the registration desk. So if you misplaced your phone, it's up there. But otherwise, I want to thank a lot of the other folks who have helped make this happen this weekend for us. So many thanks to our partner, Opportunity Fund, as well as our sponsors, YWCA, Greater Pittsburgh, and CCAC, of course, for hosting, and to many, many sponsors here, UPMC, Pittsburgh Center for Creative Reuse, WZUM, Sisters of St. Joseph, University of Pittsburgh, Center for Race and Social Problems, Pennsylvania Women Work, and the Pittsburgh Human Rights Commission, as well as many donors, named and unnamed, who have given a little bit and sometimes a lot to help make the summit happen. And we just, once again, really appreciate your time, your attention, your commitment to racial justice, and being in community with us today. So thank you all. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Give it up for Kevin Garbo, ladies and gentlemen. Jarbo. His wife and his little babies over there. And we're
Last
happy
but not
for you.
least, if you do have summit feedback to share with us, you can scan this QR code and fill out the form online to let us know how we did, how we can make things better, how we can get you back here next year and bring a couple friends with you. But other than that, have a really wonderful weekend, everybody.